Hello and welcome to the second episode of TWE Meets. And today's guest is ex-jump jockey and award-nominated sports broadcaster Paul Callaghan. Hi Paul, thanks for joining us. How are you?
Hi James, thanks very much for having me. All is good. Thanks, tipping away. Looking forward to chatting.
Yeah. Firstly, we want to talk about your career, and obviously you've had, as every jockey, you probably had highs, lows. But what would you say your standout moment when you look back on it now?
Yeah, this mightn't take too long, James. I'd standout moment. I had a lot more lows than highs. Standout moments was probably finishing fifth at over the Grand National Fences in 2007. I was on a 100-to-1 shot that we thought on paper didn't look to have as much of a chance in the race, but we knew going into the race we had a bit of work done with him. He was wrong. He pulled up at Ayr the run before that, 2 runs before that, and we had a bit of physio work done on him. He was all wrong on his back and whatnot, and he ran pleasing enough at Sedgefield, but still wasn't quite right. And it was the physio at the time told us that literally the break from Sedgefield to Aintree was spot on, and that she would have him spot on at that stage. So done a lot of muscle work and what have you, very little galloping. And he came out, I was never out of the first 4, 5, 6 the whole way around. I was still in third at the elbow, still in third at the water jump, and I just got collared for third by, I think, Nina and Richie McLaren came past me. So I ended up finishing fifth in that. Just highs from a riding perspective were kind of few and far between. There was a couple of nice horses I rode, one on, say, at Market Raisin and Catterick and that. I had a couple of spins around Cheltenham, which were quite enjoyable. But I was associated, I did a season looking after English Drever, looking after the likes of Mighty Man. I had 3 summers riding out for Mark Johnson in Midland, where I got to sit on Monte Rosso, who then went on and won a Dubai World Cup. So they were quite enjoyable and good times.
So with that, who would you say, like to narrow it down, would be the best horse you've ever ridden, ever? Tough one, but...
That is a tough one. I'd say the best horse was Monte Rosso. To ride on the gallops was something else. I knew from you don't have to be a genius to work it out. Like you're riding a horse. He was a 2-year-old. He was an unraced 2-year-old at the time. He was taking 1 stride to everyone else's 2. He was quite a big horse. He wouldn't have been out of place walking around in a bumper field at the age of 2. He was quite a big, well put together horse, but the feel he would give you just on it doing a canter, a good swinging canter, was something else. He was quite exciting. I would say the best horse that I sat on, never to reach his potential, I know there are plenty, is a horse called Reverend. And this is kind of for those who are interested. He was a horse that he beat Best Mate's time on the same course, same distance, in a point-to-point on heavy ground. And he came over. Howard Johnson bought him. I think Graham Wiley paid 6-figure sum for the horse. He beat Wild Cane Ridge from the Len Lungo stable on his first start in England. It's Carlisle, the weekend, I think, of the Charlie Hall meeting or the November meeting at Cheltenham. And it could have been even before that. I'm not too sure, but I know too it was before that, because I had my first ride at Cheltenham at the open meeting about 2 weeks later, and I was devastated. I came back up. He'd broken down in a piece of work on his 2 front legs. That work, and he never came back the same horse. But he was potentially, he was something else.
No, that's devastating, isn't it? When you get a horse like that, and you probably never get to see its full potential. But so looking on that, if there was one horse you would have loved to have ridden in your career, either past or present, who would you go for? Again, a tricky one, but who's been the one horse that's always been in your eye? I think, I would have loved to have ridden him.
That's a Sprinter Sacre. He looks something else. On a going 2 miles, he jumps. You just knew from visually from watching him on television. You knew 10 strides away where you were going into a fence, long, short. Best Mate would be probably unlucky not to make that spot. He was a horse. He was something else as well. But I'd go with Sprinter Sacre.
Yeah, definitely. Great horse. Moving on to more the Cheltenham Festival this year now. It's now just over a week away. How much are you looking forward to it, and what would you say has been your favourite memory of the festival for yourself?
I'm absolutely stoked for it. I think any racing fan is, and rightly so. Like, it's our Olympics. There's so much to be proud of, I think, with horse racing. And I know it's at times it comes in for negative criticism and from media and whatnot, and some of it justified, some of it maybe not. That's a matter of opinion. But I always say with Cheltenham going into it, the participants from the sport go out. You're trying to keep the horses sound. You're trying to keep the owners happy, staff, trainers, jockeys. You're all trying to do that, but you're participating in Cheltenham previews as well. And I always say this, like, leading into a Champions League final, you would never get the two teams, we'll say, for talk's sake, Roma or Manchester United. The players or staff from the clubs would never go around doing Champions League finals or previews in the pubs and clubs and whatnot beforehand. So I think, we have so much to be proud of. It's just it's the best. Like, it's the Olympics of the sport. My favourite memories was, growing up, Doran's Pride was a massive favourite of mine and in the household. I remember getting off school, national school, primary school early, to go home and watch the Cheltenham Festival on terrestrial television. Do you know what? I remember getting a video when videos were of Cheltenham, like Horses and Heroes, I think it was called. And that went back in the story of Arkle and whatnot. My parents were quite friendly with the late Liam McLaughlin, who's father of Dermot McLaughlin, who trained the Irish national winner, Freewheel and Dillon. So we'd always meet Liam at the races and whatnot. So he always had that link with Arkle then. And vaguely remember Dawn Run winning back in the day, but Desert Orchid as well. But I suppose in the mid-90s, when you had the likes of Denoli, Imperial Call, the likes of them horses, when Ireland weren't getting many winners at the festival, it was something else. Another memory would be Wither or Witch winning the bumper. I remember my father and brothers saying about a horse of Willie Mullins's, and that was going to, we told half the parish, like, that this horse, we wouldn't be from a racing parish. So Cheltenham, obviously everyone's getting into it and whatnot. So we had to listen at the time. The commentaries were played on the local radio station. So there was no racing channels and whatnot, and there was only the few races in the middle of the day was covered. So I just remember the kitchen in our house went absolutely nuts when Wither or Witch came up the hill under Willie Mullins, and I think Willie got half of Ireland back into the winners' enclosure after. He stood up on the horse and just waved everyone in. It was incredible. It was great.
No, that's what the Cheltenham Festival is all about, isn't it? Moments like that. Every different person will have a different memory, and also special in their own right. So with that, what is the one race that is your favourite at the festival that every year you look forward to and think, this is my standout race?
I think the Gold Cup has always been the one. Like, it's the blue ribbon of, you have the Gold Cup and the Grand National over fences, and there's always a story with Cheltenham anyway, but like the Gold Cup is the one that horses are targeting. To win 3 Gold Cups, the fact that so few horses have done it just shows you how difficult it is to do it. Albion Photo's going for his, hopefully his third for Connections, but Best Mate done it back in the day, and I was lucky enough to be there for 2 of his Gold Cups, and I was actually out on the track for one of them. I stood at the last fence when he won his 3rd Gold Cup, which was something else. The stands went absolutely mental. It was great. But other than that, I think the Supreme Novices, the first race, is always, you have to build up everyone's dreams and hopes and accumulators. Everyone's bets are still running at that stage, and the countdown's over. It's great.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with you there. I think the Supreme's my favourite, just because everything you've been doing for like the whole last 6 to 9 months, thinking about Cheltenham, everything, it comes down to that day, really, doesn't it? Because everyone's got to bet on that.
And
so.
from when the tapes go up for the first race until the Friday, we'll say, it just flies.
No, yeah.
Tuesday, it's Thursday before you know it, like.
No, yeah, you're absolutely bang on. Yeah, it's brilliant. So, looking more at horses this year, and this is where it gets slightly tricky for you. So, if you have to have one Irish horse that you have to ride this year's festival, who would it be?
Galvin in the Gold Cup. I thought he's a horse that I followed since he won at the showcase meeting back in October when COVID hit. Robbie Power was in England at the time, and I know Robbie thought an awful lot of the horse. I think the Gold Cup has been the plan from possibly as far back as then. And it's rare that these sort of plans have come together, but they seem to be coming together nicely. And he's a horse that's answered every call thus far. And I think and hope he can do the same on Friday afternoon.
Yeah, I think the Gold Cup's where it's got to be, hasn't it? And I personally think Galvin's got a really, really good chance. So, look, yeah, going back to the question on the British horse, who would you be riding? Constitution Hill?
Constitution Hill, yeah. I thought he's looked the part thus far. I thought it's a race that the Supreme is a race that Ireland, even when Ireland weren't getting many winners at the festival, it's a race that Ireland generally do quite well in. But Nicky Henderson is the one that's kind of spoiled the party on a few occasions. With, I think, was it Altior got the better of Min? Min was an Irish banker. Altior came in and beat him, and then Shishkin won it. So I think Constitution Hill, yeah, you can question the form, but I thought he was very good in testing conditions at Sandown last time out. He put a lot of daylight between himself and the second, from the run to the wings of the last hurdle to the winning line. Nico looked around. I said watching, I was working at the time, and I said live watching it that it looked, he didn't actually feel he was going as quick as what he was. And that's something, like when it's like driving a Ferrari, I suppose, doing 100 miles an hour as opposed to driving a 1 litre Ford Fiesta or what have you. There's more to come from him. And I know Shishkin, I sat in a couple of Cheltenham preview panels before that Supreme, and I know that form was getting cribbed going into it, but at the time, I remember his run before the festival, he put 11 lengths between himself and Shake 'em Up Harry at Newbury from the run to the last hurdle. In the last furlong, he put 11 lengths between himself and the second in the last furlong. And, Constitution Hill, I think I'd love to be on him in the opener.
Yeah, I think all of us would, to be honest. He's a brilliant, brilliant horse for the future as well. So looking from a punting perspective this year, is there one horse that's really took your eye in any of the handicaps that you think's well handicapped or think could run a big race in any of the handicaps?
I think Imperial Alcazar is one that's I thought he was good last time out at Cheltenham. I thought that should give his confidence a good boost from his run the time before that. His jumping lacked a bit of fluency. But there's a horse in the Kim Muir, a horse called Minds Made Up, from the Matthew Smith stable. He was second in the amateur race at the November meeting under Finney Maguire. The links there, Matthew Smith would do well with the ammunition he has, but he's based in Kilmessan in County Meath. Finney would be born in Cork, which is the other end of the country, but his father's from Kilmessan, so there's that link there. And this could have been a plot from some time ago. So I think Minds Made Up could round about the 20-1 mark, give or take. So I think he could outrun those odds.
And would you say that's your dark horse for the festival, or is there another one who you set on that might not be noticed in some of the markets at the moment?
There's a horse called Colonel Mustard from the Lorna Fowler Yard. I thought was third in a graded race last time out, and I think that's a horse now that should be more to come from. And
finally, just to finish, what is your nap of the Cheltenham Festival?
Oh, nap, that's a tricky one. I'm going to say Galvin. I stuck with it. Yeah, I'm gonna. He was my fancy a couple of months back, and I'm just going to stick to my guns. I haven't swayed elsewhere, so Galvin for me. Well, thanks so much, Paul. Thanks for all your insight and answering all the questions. And please remember to like this video and subscribe to the Winners Enclosure channel with plenty of content coming up in the near future. Cheers.